How you guys doing? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, guys. Back at you guys with another presentation. Um, in this presentation, guys, I want to talk to you about people who want to be delusional. That's what we're going to talk about. People who want to be delusional. People who like being delusional, those are people who are afraid of reality. The reality of things scares them so bad to where they have to be delusional because they're afraid to face the real dark reality that's in front of them. I ask myself from time to time, like, why do some people enjoy being delusional? Well, the reason why some people enjoy being delusional because when you're delusional, you don't have to face what's in front of you. I think a lot of people have a fear. They have a deep-rooted fear of facing the reality that's in front of them. They have a deep-rooted fear. Some people are afraid of reality. And I understand reality can be scary. I understand um, looking at things for what they are. I understand it can be a scary, scary thing to do. But me personally, if I had it my way, I'd rather look at reality for what it is. I guess my dad just programmed me to be that way. Um, I can't live being delusional. And I notice you got a lot of people who enjoy being delusional. I believe people who enjoy being delusional, those people are really cowards because they're afraid to face the reality that's in front of them. They're afraid to face reality. So you got some people, they spend their whole life running from reality. They spend their whole life running from reality. Just think about how pathetic you got to be to spend your whole life running from reality. And I've never been the type of person to run away from reality. I've always been the type of person to look at reality for what it is. I don't believe in being delusional. I don't believe in walking around with my head stuck up my behind. I don't believe in none of that. I feel, and you know what's very disgusting is when you have men who have a delusional mindset. I understand women being delusional because that's just the way women are wired. Women are not wired to be straightforward. Women are not wired to look at reality for what it is. But what irritates me is when you have men who are very delusional and they don't want to look at reality for what it is. I feel that's a very feminine trait. And I feel men like that, you can tell they didn't have no male influence in their life because a man is not supposed to be delusional. A man is supposed to look at reality for what it is. That's what a man is supposed to do. A man is supposed to, even if the reality that's before him is not a positive reality, a man is not supposed to be delusional. So any man who has a delusional mindset, you could tell he was raised by a woman, and you could tell he never had no male influence in his life. See, um, I'll never be a delusional person. I'ma always live in reality. I'ma always look at stuff for what it is. And when you a person who lives in reality, and when you a person who look at things for what they are, some people will call you negative. That's why my mother can't stand me because I believe in living in reality. I don't give a doggone about nothing spiritual. I believe in what I can touch, see, and feel. That's why I'm no longer a Christian because I live in reality. You know, I do believe in spiritual things, but I believe in using common sense as well. And but common sense is not too common, especially with women. Women don't have no common sense. They just delusional as all get out. But I feel people who choose to be delusional are cowards. Anyone who chooses to live in a bubble, anyone who chooses to live in a state of denial, I feel that they're a coward, especially if you're a man. Because a man is not supposed to be delusional. A man is supposed to live in reality and pay attention to what's in front of him. That's what a man does. That's why I say, you pay attention closely, guys. You can tell a guy who didn't have any male influence in his life. He has a very diluted mentality. And I feel men who have delusional mentalities, those are men who were raised by their mama, raised by their grandmama, and they didn't have no male influence in their life. They didn't. Because real men are not delusional. Real men look at reality for what it is. That's one thing my dad always stressed. Look at stuff for what it is. And that's what I do. I look at reality for what it is. I don't believe in being delusional. I don't believe in false hope. I don't believe in fairy tales. I just believe in looking at reality for what it is. That's what real people do, especially men. I feel people who want to be delusional, they're just scared people. Because how could you really want to live your whole life being delusional? Don't you want the truth? Don't you want to see reality for what it really is? I mean, really, don't you want to see reality for what it really is? I mean, really, you got some people, they don't want to look at reality for what it really is. They just want to believe what they want to believe. You know, that's how you know you're dealing with a person who's ignorant. When the truth is standing right in front of them, but they choose to believe a lie. I feel people like that, they're just dumb. That's a clear sign of a dumb person. Someone who sees the truth right before their eyes, but they'll deny it and say, well, that's not true. Because they don't want to face reality. They want to be delusional. That's a clear sign of that's a female mind. Denying reality, being delusional. And it's very disgusting when you have men who are delusional like this. Because I've come across plenty of men who are very delusional. They don't want to live in reality. They don't want to look at stuff for what it is. They just want to believe what make them feel good. They want to believe fairy tales. They want to believe BS. That's sad. When you don't want to look at reality for what it is. You know, and it's sad when you got men who want to be delusional and they don't want to look at reality for what it is. That's the one thing my father always stressed to me. Live in reality. Live in reality. I just believe in being cut and dry, guys. I just believe in looking at stuff for what it is. But see, when you look at stuff for what it is, people want to tell you that you crazy. They want to tell you that you negative because you look at reality for what it is. See, women don't look at reality for what it is. No. If you look at the mind of a woman's mind is full of delusion. But you know what's so pitiful is when you have a man whose mind is full of delusion. And any man who's very delusional, he wasn't raised by a man. He had no male influence. He got too much estrogen. He don't have no testosterone. That's a clear sign that you're dealing with a man with female emotions, a man who's delusional, a man who don't want to look at reality for what it is. That's why my mother gets so disgusted with me, because I look at reality for what it is. I'm not delusional. You know, that's one of the reasons to why I'm not a Christian anymore, because one thing I had to understand about religion and Christianity and religion, it fuels delusion. That's why women gravitate so much to Christianity, because Christianity and religion, all it does is pump you up with delusion. That's why more women go to church than men, because it's all delusion. It's not about things that are factual. It's not about things that are rooted in reality. When it comes to things that are spiritual, you know, that's why anybody who's spiritual, I don't talk to spiritual people. Anybody who has a very spiritual type of mind frame, I don't want to talk to you. Because people who are spiritual, they're not rooted in reality. They're rooted in delusion. They're rooted in delusion. And I just felt this would be a great presentation to make, guys. People who want to People who want to live in a state of delusion, those people are afraid. They are afraid of reality. I truly believe that. People who want to live in a state of delusion are afraid of reality. That's why they want to live in a state of delusion. But how can you really have peace and happiness living in a state of delusion? I mean, can you really have joy and peace living in a state of delusion? I'd rather know the painful truth and be miserable. That's just me. That's just me. I'd rather know the painful truth and be miserable. But I guess everybody's brain not wired like me. I don't want to live in a state of delusion. And I just feel people who choose to live in a state of delusion are scaredy cats. They're afraid of reality. That's why they want to live in a state of delusion. I'd rather look at reality and look at the world for what it is. And when you look at things for what it is, people going to always paint you to be pessimistic. They're going to always paint you to be negative. I don't care. Those same people who tell you that you're negative, ask them, how can you live your whole life scared? Because that's what they're doing. People who live in a state of delusion, they scared. But you guys have a good one. You guys let me know what you think about this. Because men definitely don't need to live in a state of delusion. Because the life of a man is more hellacious than the life of a woman anyway. But you guys leave your comments. Talk to you soon. Have a good one.